Let me just start off by saying, for those people that stole those McFarlane action figures, please return them right now. I better not flip and see like an eBay listing with like 50,000 Killing Joke Joker action figures. I better not see somebody at like a swap meet selling like a couple hundred of these, because I am going to absolutely lose my mind. Matter of fact, McFarlane is going to beat you himself with his big giant rapper gold chain, because he just doesn't stand for buffoonery like this. I will say it's a crazy time that we live in. I know people just like to throw that phrase around, but really, I mean, out of all of the things that you could imagine that would go wrong in this particular point in time where the tariffs are looming, action figure prices are going to get absolutely insane, and then people are stealing truckloads of McFarlane collectibles. Could you imagine those buffoons when they get to the truck, they open it, and then they realize it's not like big giant bars of gold, it's not even like jewelry, video game consoles, not even some Jordans. It's action figures. They probably don't even know the market for these. They don't even know how much they go for online. I guess they can hold them hostage for a little bit of a ransom, but that probably is way too much effort. I don't see these people even being interested in trying to flip these action figures. Now, I will say I wasn't very clear on where exactly these were stolen from. Like, if they're stolen in the US, I'm assuming it's much easier to actually go after them. But if it's done like overseas somewhere, or like in another country, or like in transit to the US, maybe it'll be very difficult. Regardless, stop it. This is just absolutely insane. So, as of the moment of this recording, McFarlane announced that he was going to cancel all of the pre-orders for the Killing Joke Joker cover recreations action figure that he had just threw up for pre-order. Absolutely insane. That one is going to be canceled. Now, as of the moment of this recording, I didn't see an email for the Supergirl, but there are some rumblings that Supergirl will also be canceled within the next few days, if they haven't already canceled it. By the way, in case you guys are wondering, these are two of the bigger heavy hitter action figures that were going to be released from McFarlane within the next few months. We know that Killing Joke has an absolute cult following. Personally, I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion. It's an okay, good comic book series, and then I remember watching the animated film that they released when I was a teenager, and just kind of forgetting about it. It was whatever. It wasn't like anything groundbreaking. It didn't like shake me to my core the way that certain people feel like after either reading the comic book series or actually watching the live action, or I should say the animated film. But it was a great looking action figure. I'll be brutally honest with you guys. After years of McFarlane tinkering around with Joker action figures, I think this was like his prototypical vision of what the Killing Joke Joker is supposed to look like. And the Supergirl, well, I'm not really going to get into it. That is probably one of the greatest figures McFarlane was ever going to reveal or release, I should say. I absolutely loved the hair on that figure. Was perfectly sculpted, great paint all around. I love the head sculpt. I love the way that the figure looked. You were able to recreate the cover of the comic book, which I think is, just absolutely breathtaking. As I said, it's probably one of the best figures that McFarlane has released or ever revealed, because we don't know if we're actually going to get a chance at these figures. I will say there's a very slight possibility that they're able to recover these figures. It just doesn't make sense for these people to go through all this trouble to actually steal these trucks. And I mean, why wouldn't they just keep them? I don't see them returning them to McFarlane. The other thing that I kind of have been speculating about is maybe this wasn't just a giant truckload of action figures. I'm assuming there was maybe some other product or other merchandise in those trucks, and maybe they were after those particular products, and then this was kind of just a little side thing that they figured, we'll take them. We're already taking whatever else was in the truck. But regardless, you're not going to get these figures, at least not for the foreseeable future. The way that I think this works is there's probably like an insurance company from the trucking company that is probably going to cover the losses from McFarlane. They're probably just going to send them a big giant check for whatever these figures were going to retail for, or whatever the full cost, or whatever the profit was going to be for him. And then he could probably potentially go back into production for these figures. Now, I will say, and this is something to keep an eye on, we don't know how strained the situation is with McFarlane and the DC license. I'm going to assume, and this is just coming from my tiny little T-Rex brain, which is pretty small, I'm going to assume that he already had everything planned out up until the moment where he loses the DC license. I'm not sure if they're like extra factories just waiting around to receive orders from McFarlane, but in my mind's eye, I think that he already has everything set up. There's already a game plan, there's already a blueprint. Those companies are working 24/7. Just because he's not releasing anything or throwing up pre-orders, it doesn't mean that the factory isn't working on something. Maybe they're already mass producing the next figure, and then when he receives those figures, then the next figure goes into production, so on and so forth. So honestly, I do feel like there's a tiny little chance that these figures don't go back into production, just because that would mean like another few months. He probably has to turn them back around. And yet I'll probably have to wait for the entire case to be settled for him to receive the check and then send that over to the factory and have those remade. So it's a whole process. I'm going to assume, again, I'm not an insider. This is just me working out the logic. There is a small percentage, a small chance that these factories are already booked for the next few months. And then maybe we just don't get those figures because, his schedule is already pretty filled. But this is pure speculation. Only time will tell. It is also worth mentioning there was a statue in there, the Greg Capullo Joker and Batman statue, I believe, that was also canceled. So that was another kind of big hit to the collectible community. As I said, it feels really weird. I don't think they were actually going after this particular product, or I don't think that they knew what they were going after, because at the end of the day, these figures are mostly unreleased. I mean, nobody else has these figures aside from maybe reviewers. Maybe they have some product samples here and there that were sent out before, like the mass order went out to everybody. I don't know if there are already reviews up online, or if you can pre-order some of these through maybe eBay, because sometimes, these figures leave the factory. People are able to get their hands on really early action figures. But aside from that, if you see like multiple sales for this from an eBay seller or from somebody on the outside, it'll be pretty easy to track them down. Like, I think this is not a very good, well thought out plan here. And ultimately, I think the culprits should be pretty easily found. But as I said, we don't know if they were stolen here in the US, or if they're still here in the US. Like, they might be outside of the country, where I think it becomes a little bit more difficult to like actually charge somebody or go after them. They're not going to send like an entire squad over there, or like the US Army, to try to track these criminals down. At the end of the day, it's just going to be another one of those like insurance situations where, McFarlane gets paid off and then he probably has to put the figures back into production. It's really sad, and hopefully everybody that pre-ordered this particular figure or the set of collectibles is able to receive these figures, because it's really sad to see how the community as a whole is in shambles. Like, people are like visually upset at the community. They're not happy about the tariffs. Certain people are okay with tariffs, like they're all for it. They're just like campaigning it. It's really dividing the community. And then on top of that, you have this horrible, horrendous news. I just wanted to give you guys my personal thoughts and just kind of make you guys aware pre-orders will be canceled. Sad, but here's to hoping these action figures actually get released by McFarlane. Anyways, that's all I really have for you guys. It's not too intense. It's not too long-winded. It's essentially just letting you guys know these action figures are being canceled by McFarlane. And I like the transparency. He's letting his consumer base know, like, hey, this happened. This is why we're not sending out the pre-orders, instead of like leaving them in the dark and them wondering why exactly McFarlane decided to cancel the action figures. This way, there's no like unfair criticism towards McFarlane. Like, maybe certain people feel like they're holding out on them, or, things of that nature. Anyways, there you guys have it. I'm not going to ramble on too long, but if you guys do like action figure rambling style content, make sure to stay tuned. We do this pretty consistently. We're doing it on a daily basis, and if you guys enjoy it, then make sure to stick around. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to enjoy the hobby. Pose your action figures, play with them, photograph them, especially if they're from McFarlane, because they're going away soon. And on top of that, people keep stealing McFarlane action figure truckloads. But stay safe out there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.